And if you guys are watching these highlights as over and Work to Game, like and subscribe. We're going to break it down for you guys so you can hopefully find the bits and pieces that you want. Obviously, we finally got to look into what Island Sanctuary is going to be. We got to look at 2 different kinds of end game dungeon kind of content and so much more. Chris, do we want to just go from top to bottom, or do we want to like have a focus on our biggest updates?
I mean, I think going into the live letter, I was most excited to find out what Criterion was. I was expecting Island Sanctuary to be 0.25. I was going to set my expectations at like a little bit better than Dome and Enclave. That way I felt like I was likely going to be happy with it. Post live letter, just as kind of a tidbit, I think that Island Sanctuary was probably the big winner as far as the amount of information we got. But I am stoked across the board. The first half of the live letter was, it's the even patch. It felt like very in-game focused. There was some casual stuff in there, but like that second half with Island Sanctuary said like, we got stuff for everybody. So it feels like 0.1 where it was like, oh, this is really casual. We got Alliance Raid and all that. Oh wait, and there's an ultimate. So like it feels like there is something for everybody. So I think just to get the early question out of the way, this is late August, and I would just start at the top, unless you want to kind of talk about how you're feeling before and after initial feelings, and let's get going.
I want to talk about initial feelings because I felt like this legitimately brought in a bomb, a wave of just excitement over the content that's coming. Because for the longest time, you and I've been on this like rodeo for a long time covering these live letters. The question, especially in terms of dungeon content, Savage content and raids, like I'm glad that those exist. But it's not something that I ever felt like that's the reason I want to go and play this game. I like the dungeons, and the dungeons never really felt that challenging. And I was like, can we get some kind of happy medium? And that's what variant dungeons and now Criterion dungeons seem to fill. Now, will they in the long run? I honestly hope so. I feel like this is essentially kind of the thing that I've been looking forward to as especially a 1.0 player going into 2.0, seeing dungeon content slowly step its way down to where we now get a dungeon for the MSQ. So in that regards, it's like, well, yeah, it's nice that we get the one dungeon. It's beautiful. Okay, that's great. And then you kind of get to a point where you speed run it, and that's the content. Now variants got pathways, right? With scalable party sizes. Okay, cool. Like that sounds interesting in and of itself. I can't wait to experience it. That means that variability in the dungeon has me excited. Because like dungeons also in a moment feel like they're just like go to point A, go to point B. All right, thank you. Here's your reward, and we'll see you next time. Then in 6.25, so timing wise, variant dungeons launching in 6.2, the additional Criterion dungeons building off that variancy to a degree ends up stepping up the difficulty. Designed for 4 people content, the normal version, which essentially chat was talking about as an extreme difficulty, having limited raises. So you're not role restricted, not job restricted. You can bring your black mage now because you do have like raises. I think I think all of a sudden like the monster hunter, right? The monster hunter, you get so many revives or whatever. Who knows how that's going to ultimately work yet? We'll find out in part 2. But then the Savage version, Savage dungeons, guys, you do not raise. And so now all of a sudden you're looking at DR, you're looking at some of these things that I thought were the pinnacle. That was some of the most fun content that I was doing in Shadowbringers, coming into this kind of piece of content and exploring the world in the history of Ul'dah with Sil'dah and those ruins. Awesome. This is exactly what I have been wanting, but was too afraid to express publicly because then I don't want to be coming off as just someone who's complaining like, oh, I really wish that we could go into, all right, I'll let them surprise me. And that's what they did. They completely surprised me with this live letter and has me personally very excited. That's where, so heat map wise, I was kind of like, well, like, what's going to keep me playing after Omni 90? What's going to keep me like really invested in trying to find the best in slot gear? And because that's something that's never really appealed to me. I've never felt the need to, because I'm not a Savage raider. I never felt like doing that. But now having a little bit more smaller party size, this speaks to me more as a player. So how do you feel pre and post?
I mean, I'm used to the 0.1 feeling relatively small in my opinion, because you're kind of meant to finish up all the 0.0 stuff you still haven't done. But I think the 0.2 looks massive. Mm-hmm. It's massive. The fact that we got a narrative new iteration on dungeons, and we got a mechanics new iteration on dungeons, and that those are separated. What this really feels like is everything is optional. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. The fact that Savage being is delayed by a week says like just the number of things that are saying like just play only the things you want to play. The one exception being that the new relic is locked behind Hildebrand, but everything else was about removing requirements.
Mhm.
And I like a lot of that. There are aspects of it that feel clumsy, like the new Island Sanctuary is going to have a lot of its own currencies and stuff. And I think this game struggles from like what happens if you keep that pattern up is after 9 years, you have 67 different tabs with 80 million different currencies. And you've got like, look at our system settings thing is like, it just gets, it gets confusing and muddled.
Yeah.
But the advantage is there's no prep. There's no requirement. If you decide to step out of that content, then your involvement in that content is done and complete. And so the advantage there is that this once again feels like a patch about play the amount of 14 you want to play. We're going to give you enough content that if you want to play nonstop till 0.3, you won't have done everything. But if you only like some of it, come do only that thing and then peace out. And I really like that.
Absolutely.